Tena Koto Katwa. Magandang gabi po sa lahat. Ito po ulit si Attorney Jean Bagsic ng Bagsic Law. At ngayon po ay episode 35 na po tayo ng ating Usapang Batas. At hindi ako nahirapan pumili ng topic na ito kasi ito is bukod sa immigration, ito ang topic na in terms of legal issue at na malapit sa aking puso kasi kung di po natatanong, ako po ay nag-practice ng Treaty of Waitangi for almost 10 years sa aking dating pinagtatrabahuhan. Kaya nasabi kong hindi ito naging isang mahirap na desisyon para i-discuss ang Treaty of Waitangi. Kung di ako nagkakamali, siguro it will be safe to say na siguro this will be the first time na i-discuss ang Treaty of Waitangi in Filipino or in Tagalog. Kasi I think during my time, ako lang po ata ang Filipino lawyer na nag-practice ng Treaty of Waitangi law dito sa New Zealand. Pero I think there are new lawyers now, especially from our community sa mga Pilipino na nagpa-practice na sa ng Treaty of Waitangi. So I salute them for continuing the legacy kumbaga, and keep it up, and of course it's a very interesting area of law. At syempre meron tayong public holiday during this weekend. So I think mabuti rin nating malaman bilang mga migrante, bilang mga Pilipino, kung ano nga ba ang background, pinagmulan, or ano nga bang ang kahalagahan ng Treaty of Waitangi dito sa New Zealand. Kasi admittedly, kapag nasa New Zealand ka, hindi mo pwedeng hindi madaanan or ma-encounter ang Treaty of Waitangi, kasi ang Treaty of Waitangi is embedded in the New Zealand legal system. So bilang Pilipino, bilang mga migrante, siguro dapat rin nating alam kung ano ang kahalagahan, ano ang pinagmulan ng history, at anong epekto nito sa ating pang-araw-araw na buhay dito sa New Zealand. Okay? Pagpasensya nyo na po ang aking background. Nandito po ako sa kwarto ng aking mga anak kasi nawawalan na po ako ng space. Pero wag ko kayong ma-distract. Tingin lang po sa slide. Okay? So, umpisa na po tayo. Okay. Gaya sabi ko kanina, as a background, I was a Treaty of Waitangi lawyer for almost 10 years. So, of course, on the side, I was doing immigration, pero ngayon po ay full-time immigration lawyer na ako dito sa New Zealand. Pero, kumbaga, 10 years, hindi ko mababaliwala yan. Kumbaga, napakalaking parte yan ng buhay ng aking legal profession or career dito sa New Zealand. Dito ko natutong, of course, yung how law firms work in New Zealand, yung pakipagtrabaho sa ibang mga lokal, especially mapa-Maori man ba or mapa-Kiwi or ibang lahi. So because of that work, that area of specialization sa aking trabaho, marami ko natutunan, of course, with my former employers, with my former bosses. So ang laki-laki ng parte nito na nagawa sa aking professional career at kung nasan ako ngayon. Okay? Pero siguro bilang disclaimer, hindi po ako expert ng Treaty of Waitangi. Mas marami pong mas magaling sa akin, including my bosses. So siguro ayoko rin naman po i-discuss yung Treaty of Waitangi na very detailed, very specific, kasi baka makatulog kayo, mabore kayo. So siguro gagawin kong very simple and very informative, at yung kumbaga para lang yung all you need to know, kumbaga. Okay? Now, New Zealand pre-British era. Okay? So I think they were as early as 1300, if I'm not mistaken, kasi sa dami-dami naman binasa namin libro about New Zealand history, especially from the perspective of Maori. So marami mga tinatawag din oral and traditional history kung kailan nga ba unang dumating ang Maori. Pero if I'm not mistaken, around 1300s. Correct me if I'm wrong, pero I think those would be roughly yun yung mga panahon na unang dumating ang Maori via Waka. Waka ito yung parang ito yung mga malalaking bangka nila na so from the Pacific, sabi sa oral traditional history, they came to New Zealand and they discovered Aotearoa. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, bago pa man din dumating ang mga Europeans or even mga British, matagal na pong naninirahan, nag-establish na po ng kanilang sarili ang mga Maori dito sa New Zealand as early as 1300. Kasi, kung di nyo po, baka sa para po sa benefit ng nakararami, nauna lang naman dumating ang mga Europeans around 1700s, 1800s, at yun nga, nagkaroon ng treaty noong 1840. Pero, very important is, during 1835, nagkaroon na po ng Declaration of Independence ang mga Maori chiefs. Okay? Ito yung tinatawag na He Whakapukatanga. Kasi, yun nga, dagsahan na po ng mga Europeans, British, not only British, French, so even Dutch. Okay, so marami po mga dayuhan, mga Europeans na dumarating sa New Zealand. So, kumbaga, di ba parang sa Pilipinas, nagde-declare ng independence, tayo din sila during 1898. So, ito pong 1835, nag-declare po ng independence sa mga Maori chief dito sa New Zealand. Okay, so that's an important part of the legal history of New Zealand. Okay, pero yun nga po, dahil po sa mga nangyari, parang hindi po kinikilala yung declaration na yon dahil, of course, under international law, marami mga siguro mga requirements, pero in terms of from Maori perspective, ito po ay valid Declaration of Independence. Okay? So, ito po yung nangyari sa Northland. So, ito po yung sa bandang Whangarei o Bay of Islands. So, Northland area po, Northland region. Okay? Now, gusto ko rin discuss yung mga important aspects po ng Maori language and culture and tradition na I think very important na malaman at unawain din po. Kasi ito po yung kumbaga, it's their way of life. Ika nga nila. So, one important aspect siguro, number one siguro, of course, with all the books and the hearings that I've attended, parang number one po talaga ang mana sa mga Maori. So, siguro po, mana, roughly translated po siguro yung siguro yung dignidad, yung reputasyon, so pangkalahatan na pagkatao. Kumbaga, kung mawala ang lahat, wag lang mana, tawag na ng mga Maori. So very important sa kanila yan, ang mana, sa perspective po sa perspective po ng Maori. Okay? Second aspect po siguro ang tikanga na tinatawag nila. So ito po yung pag-observe ng mga traditions, ng history, ng kanilang mga elders, the way of life. So, siguro, ito po talagang sinusunod at talagang, especially ng mga elders, talagang dapat yung mga young ones, yung mga younger generations, importante po na in-observe nila ang tikanga na tinatawag. So, again, another important aspect of Maori culture and tradition or language. Okay? Third aspect po siguro, ang connection ng Maori with the Maunga, Awa, and Whenua. So, Maunga meaning the mountains, Awa meaning the sea, Whenua meaning the land. Okay? So, importante po sa mga Maori ang lahat ng mga kumbaga pangkalikasan. Okay? Na napapalibot sa kanila. So, meron silang koneksyon halimbawa sa isang bundok. So, meron silang mga oral and traditional history na pinangahawakan, na pinangalagaan at hanggang ngayon na ipapasa nila sa kanilang mga younger generations. That's the same with sa kanilang awa or yung tubig or dagat, and especially sa Whenua, ang land. Kasi ang land is kumbaga one of the most important aspect ng kanilang kumbaga ownership and possession, ang land. Okay? I mean, just like anyone, kahit kayo naman di ba? Napaka-importante po ngayon ang pagmamay-ari at koneksyon sa lupain, di ba? We can relate to that as Filipinos, okay? Not just indigenous people, but again as kumbaga common tao na tinatawag. Okay? So, marami pa hong aspects yan ng Maori culture, tradition, and language, pero I think, minention ko lang po yung mga sa iniisip ko po na pinaka-importante na banggitin at unawain. Okay? So, marami pa hong iba yan. Again, hindi po ako expert ng Maori, tikanga, or ng even tereo or language. So, I think I'll leave that to the expert. Pero, kumbaga, yung version ko lang ho po ngayon ng Usapang Batas is the way I understand it and the way it was taught to me for so many years because of my work, dahil sa aking trabaho. Okay? Okay. So, siguro yung gana banggit ko during the 1700s, 1800s, nagsimula na pong dagsaan ng mga Europeans. Ang tawag ng mga Maori sa kanila ay Pakeha. Okay? So, yung mga kumbaga white people o Europeans. Okay? So, they come in different shapes and forms. Kumbaga, mayroong mga missionaries. Okay? So, Anglicans, Wesleyans, and yung mga Catholics, yung mga French. So, yan po, dagsaan po ng missionaries during those period of time in the history of New Zealand. Okay, nagkaroon po ng mga whalers, okay, na dumadagsa sa New Zealand, and nagkakaroon ng mga intertribal po kasi ang mga Maori dito sa New Zealand. So, there are different tribes, kung ba tawag nila Iwi or Hapu. Iwi is the, kumbaga, yung malaking collective na tinatawag. So, Iwi, masasabi mong Iwi, generally, again, if you can connect your group to a particular waka or yung kumbaga, boat na pagdating dito sa New Zealand, or kumbaga may common ancestor kayo or tupo na tinatawag. Okay? So, that's how you can connect and establish yourself as an Iwi. At syempre, for every Iwi, mayroong mga Hapu o ito yung mga sub-tribes na tinatawag. So, again, I'm just loosely defining yung mga terms, ha. So, para lang maintindihan ng ating mga viewers. Okay? So, this was a period of time na nagkakaroon din ng mga InterTribal Warfare, nagkakaroon ng mga pagbebenta ng lupa sa mga Europeans, at it was recorded in history na ang Maori magbebenta ng lupa, tapos yung mga Europeans ibibigay lang is yung mga coat, yung mga muskets, baril, kasi ginagamit noon ng mga Maori ang mga muskets or baril sa kanilang tribal warfare. So, kumbaga, kung sino may control ng mga muskets or baril, they can win the war, 'di ba? And then pinapalit din yung mga blankets, ano pa ba, yung mga pipes. So, kumbaga parang yung mga European, kumbaga, items napapalit nila with land, 'di ba? So, kumbaga parang, of course, makikita parang doon in that situation parang unequal na yung kanilang barter system, 'di ba? So, lupa kapalit is blanket, 'di ba? So, I think that is very absurd if you hear it nowadays, 'di ba? Okay? So, nangyayari din doon yung mga intermarriages ng mga Europeans with the Maori chief's daughters. Kasi again, this is from my reading of the books in the past na yun nga, yung mga whalers or Europeans to be accepted sa mga tribo or mga Hapu or mga Iwi, they would marry yung mga anak ng chief. So, in effect, so nabibigyan sila ng mga lupa. Okay? So, yun. So, kumbaga, this was all happening ang nangyayari. So, sa pananaw both ng Maori and Europeans, kumbaga, may pagka-lawlessness or magulo ang dating. Kasi walang order, kumbaga, legal order na nagmumuno or nag-observe sa New Zealand. So, I think when this was all happening, so dito ngayon, kumbaga, nagkaroon ng idea na magkaroon ng Treaty of Waitangi or Treaty o Waitangi. So, ito yung Maori translation ng Treaty of Waitangi, Treaty. Okay? So, out of a lot of discussions, nagkaroon ng formal signing sa Waitangi, sa Bay of Islands. So, merong specific town sa Bay of Islands up north. So, ito sa northern region. Dito nag-sign yung majority of the chiefs ng New Zealand o mga Maori chiefs. Okay? So, pero kahit nagkaroon ng signing sa Waitangi, nagkaroon din ng signing all over New Zealand. Okay? So, nagkaroon ng signing sa East Coast, nagkaroon ng signing sa South Island, sa Bay of Plenty, sa even sa West Coast. So, kumbaga, all over New Zealand yung naging kumbaga inikot yung treaty para i-sign ng mga Maori chiefs. Okay? Pero it's important to note na hindi naman lahat ng mga Maori chiefs ay pumirma. Okay? Kasi of course, gaya na sabi ko, 'di ba, nag-declare nga sila ng independence, bakit sila pipirma? And it's one of the chiefs na hindi pumirma is si Teferefero, Putato Teferefero. And he is the great ancestor ng Maori King ngayon. So, yung mga descendants ni Teferefero, sila yung nasa Waikato region ngayon, yung sa Waikato Tainui. So, again, that's also an important aspect na kailangan maintindihan in the history of New Zealand. Again, anong implikasyon ng hindi pag-sign ng treaty? Of course, now it always been a big issue kapag naghihiring kami sa Waitangi Tribunal. Pero again, of course, 'di ba, hindi pag di ka pumirma ng treaty, para siyang of course, if you do not sign, therefore you're not bound by the treaty, you also will not bound by the advantages or benefits, diba? So, kung parang merong two-way na interpretation eh. Pero again, I leave that to the experts kung paano i-discuss yan, but I'm just mentioning key facts and information about the signing of the treaty. Okay? Next one. Just a simple slide. Nakuha ko sa internet, and this is actually natitira na lang yung actual document ng treaty. So, meron mga signatures dyan. Okay? Again, no copyright infringement intended. That's why I put there the links where I got the photos. Okay? Now, yung treaty, meron lang siyang 3 articles. Napakaliit at napakasimple. Okay? Pero kahit napakaliit, napakasimple, nagbunga ito ng katakot-takot na issues, na legal claims, at mga problema. Okay? Na tinatawag. Kasi, kahit 3 articles lang siya, di ba, at that time, ang Maori, of course, they have their own language, di ba? So, of course, most of them, probably most, if not all, can only understand and speak Maori. So, meron mga ilan-ilan siguro na because of their relationship or dealings with the Europeans, nakaintindi sila ng English. Pero, it's safe to say na most of them, kumbaga parang they can only speak and understand Maori. So, kumbaga, of course, yung version ng Maori, ng treaty in English, kapag tinranslate sa Maori, magkakaroon ng mga pagkakaiba. Kaya nga may tinatawag na mga, kumbaga, pagkakaiba sa translation. Diba? So, kumbaga, may term tayo na loss in translation. Diba? Kung merong mga salita, may mga konsepto na nawawala kapag natatranslate sa ibang lengguwahe. Okay? So, dito na nga yung, of course, when we go to the hearing, we always raise na there are 2 versions of the treaty or treaty. Okay? So, isa-isa natin. So, Article 1, so cession of sovereignty to the British Crown. So, ito pa lang kasi sinulat ko dyan kasi yung sovereignty is a modern legal concept, modern European legal concept. Okay? So, it's very different to Maori, and actually some experts would say it's does not exist in the Maori world or perspective yung pag-cede ng sovereignty. Okay? Kasi nung tinranslate ito sa Maori, yung sinid lang or nagkaroon lang ng session of kawanatanga. Okay? And when you translate kawanatanga, it's only governance, not sovereignty. Okay? Again, marami pang discussions yan, but I'm just mentioning yung mga basic facts para mabilis tayo. Article 2 is undisturbed ownership and ng possession ng flora and fauna, mga properties ng Maori. So that includes the land. At in effect, in exchange, magkakaroon ng right of preemption ang mga British. So, ibig sabihin, bago ibenta ng mga Maori sa ibang tao, ang kanilang mga lupa, dapat sa British Crown muna. Okay, so yun yung right of preemption. And third and final article is the equal protection ng mga Maori as British citizens. So, kumbaga, they will be treated equally. Okay, so, di ba napakagandang pakinggan at ng treaty, di ba? Kaya nga napapirma ang mga Maori ng mga British because napakaganda ng adhikain, napakaganda ng layunin, di ba? Ng treaty para magkaroon ng ma-observe ang batas at ang kumbaga law and order sa New Zealand. Okay? Pero yung mga sumunod na nangyari after the signing of the treaty is kumbaga maraming nangyari because sa pagkakaroon ng cession of sovereignty in the perspective of the British, nagpasa na sila ng napakaraming batas sa New Zealand na in effect, kumbaga natanggalan ng karapatan ng mga property at mga kumbaga ari-arian ng mga Maori. Okay? So, number one dyan, ang native land court. Okay? Kasi in the European system, dapat may titulo ka ng lupa. Diba? I mean, that also applies to the Philippines. Dapat kung ikaw nagmamay-ari ng lupa, dapat may titulo ka. And that was the purpose of the native land court is, kumbaga, i-individualize ang mga lupa at bigyan ng titulo ang mga individual na Maori or tao. Kaya lang, of course, before the Europeans, ang mga lupa naman ng Maori is kumbaga communal. Okay? So, wala sa konsepto nila yung isang tao nang magmamay-ari ng isang lupa. So, dahil sa native land court, kumbaga, na-individualize yung mga title at kumbaga, of course, kung native land court ka, magkakaroon ng hearing. Kung di ka nakarating sa hearing, mawawalan ka ng titulo. Diba? So, I think this was one of the major laws na pinasa sa New Zealand na nagkaroon talaga ng major effect sa ownership ng Maori land. Okay? Another aspect is public works takings. Of course, when you establish a government for the British, magtatayo ka ng mga schools, ng mga roads, ng railways, ng mga scenic reserves. And in effect, kumbaga, nagkakaroon ng public works taking ng walang compensation. Di ba? Sa Pilipinas, may tayong tinatawag na eminent domain. Yung pwedeng kumuha yung gobyerno ng lupain, even privately owned, for the public good. Tapos babayaran lang kumbaga sa fair market value. Okay? So during those time, I think there were records na there were some instances na nagkaroon ng public works takings na walang compensation na binigay. Okay? Sa iba namang records, nagkaroon ng compensation pero very minimal naman yung nabigay na pera o kabayaran sa Maori. Okay? Another aspect is na nagkaroon ng mga land development schemes na kung saan is, of course, kinrupo-grupo yung mga lupain ng Maori, dinevelop, kaso karamihan sa mga land development schemes na lugi. Okay? So, mabilis ko na di-discuss kasi I could take all day long para discuss isa-ito, pero para kumbaga, baka antokin naman kayo, so kumbaga parang iniisip ko lang na madali at mabilis maintindihan ng ating mga kababayan. Okay? Tapos, nagkaroon din ng mga native land schools. One is important aspect siguro ng mga native schools is sa schools binawal ang pagsasalita at pagsulat at pagtuturo ng Maori or Tereo na tinatawag. So kumbaga that is one form of eliminating community, di ba? Kumbaga i-eliminate mo yung language nila. Okay? Now, another aspect is nagkakaroon ng mga gera. So, the British Crown would engage war with Maori na ayaw sumunod sa kanila. So, kapag natalo sila sa gera, they would confiscate lands. Okay? Now, so, in general, so parang, kasi Maori, ang pinangahawakan lang nila is kanilang lupa. So, through all this period, for so many decades, maraming batas, so, in effect, nawala ng lupa ang mga Maori. So, again, this is one of the pictures na nakuha ko sa internet na kung makita nyo, ito North Island to, during the 1860s, Maori the land was almost all was owned by Maori, di ba? Yung mga brown. Pero as the decades and years pass by, makita nyo, because of those systems, mga batas na naipasa, na mga proseso, unti-unting kumbaga na-dispossess ng lupain ang mga Maori. Okay? So 1939 yan. So makita nyo parang mga dot na lang, mga tuldok-tuldok na lang yung mga lupain ng Maori. Okay? So ito kayo yung parang naging subject of claim na ginagawa namin sa Waitangi Tribunal. Okay? So it was set up in 1975 to hear and about claims on historical, contemporary, and generic claims. Okay? So matagal na proseso. It's a long process where people, well, iwi and hapu can present their grievances against the crown. Kaya lang, at the end of it all, ang masaklap lang is yung decision ng Waitangi Tribunal are only recommendations and they're not binding. Okay? So siguro ang magagamit lang yung mga decision ng Waitangi Tribunal is siguro what they can use para sa kanilang negotiation with the treaty settlement. Okay? And that is the next step of the claims process. Okay? So picture lang na Waitangi Tribunal. So again, yung Waitangi Tribunal kasi they go around the country. Kung nasaan yung mga tribe, yung mga iwi or hapu, they would hear the cases or the claims sa kanilang mga maray. So again, because sa aking trabaho with the Waitangi Tribunal, with a private law firm, I was able to travel from every corner of New Zealand siguro. Okay? So makita nyo dyan, meron mga maray pa na talagang tabing dagat, nasa bundok, walang signal. So, kumbaga, because of my work, I was able to go to those maray na siguro not anyone can go to. Okay? Now, so, after ng claims sa Waitangi Tribunal, or sometimes they don't go to claims, don't go to tribunal, so, dumidiretso na sila sa negotiation. So, one of the earlier tribes na nakipagsettle sa Crown, or sa British Crown, or government, is Ngaitaho. So, Ngaitaho is the iwi of that na located sa South Island. So, 1990s pa lang, nakipagsettle na sila, including Waikato, Tainui. So, this is Waikato, Tainui around Hamilton area, King County, Terohe, Potay. So, 1990s pa lang, they were able to settle with the Crown and they were able to get compensation. Kasi, ang stance naman ng gobyerno is, they could not return the lands that have been lost. Diba? Kasi most of them will be privately owned. Pero except for those that are still publicly owned, they can return it to the hap or the tribe. Pero for all the grievances, not only land, for all the effects of the laws, the systems that were passed against Maori, whether it be health, education, native land court, or any aspect of their life, they would be given compensation as part of the, kumbaga, as the effect of having through going to the process. And admittedly, hindi naman enough yung mga pera or even millions that they receive kasi kumbaga, lands have been lost, generation had been lost, terreo was lost, napakaraming aspeto ng buhay nila na naapektuhan at no amount of money can quantify sa mga nawala sa Maori during that time na kumbaga when the British Crown was ruling over New Zealand. Okay? So of course, meron mga magagandang naidulot ang kakaroon ng system, ng British system and British Crown governance dito sa New Zealand. But of course, we could not deny the fact na out of all the success is na disadvantage or naagrabyado naman yung mga Maori in the process. Okay? So this is just about the district inquiries na nagkakaroon kasi nakahati yung mga hearings sa Maori, so it depends on region. So That is a quick map of the regions na when the tribunal heard about district inquiries, hearing about mga historical claims. But again, when I left my old law firm, I think that was one of the last district inquiries na nag-hear ng historical claims. Now the tribunal is only hearing about mga generic claims and contemporary. Okay? Now, Maori today, siguro, gaya na sabi ko kanina, out of all this, there were systematic failures of the British Crown for so many years, for so many decades. That is why nagkakaroon ng mga hearing process and claims for past grievances ng Crown, even present. Okay? Kasi although hindi natin alam or hindi natin nararamdaman the effects of the non-observance and the abrogation of the treaty, nararamdaman until now. So, isa rin din dyan ang institutional racism na nararanasan ng Maori. Okay? Because of the laws that were passed, because of how they were treated or they were painted sa society, kumbaga nagkakaroon ng institutional racism or bias na nangyayari against Maori. Okay? And also, this has been a topic again when I was working sa old law firm na yung history na nalalaman natin at nababasa about New Zealand is from the perspective of the British or the European. So, madalang natin marinig yung history from the perspective of Maori. And fortunately, yun yung history na nabasa ko, na naranasan ko, and I was able to live because of my work by working with as a Waitangi tribunal or as a treaty lawyer working with the Waitangi Tribunal. So, I'm very fortunate na isa ako sa mga, actually, Filipino pa ako and migrant na nakakaalam ng New Zealand history from the perspective of Maori, which is very humbling na I was a part of and nalaman ko. Okay? So, that's why I'm sharing it to you now sa ating mga kababayan na yung history na nababasa natin or nakikita natin or napapanood is not the full picture. Okay? So, marami dyan na version ng New Zealand history na hindi natin nakita, hindi natin narinig, o hindi natin napanood. So, siguro, maganda rin maging open-minded tayo sa version na ito from the Maori perspective ng New Zealand. And also, yung decline ng Tereo, I think this is one of the major effects ng pagkakaroon ng British nagkakaroon ng British governance dito sa New Zealand is the decline of Tereo. Kung papansin niyo yung mga elderlies lang o yung mga tupo na sa lang, yung mga older generations na lang ang nakakapagsalita, nakakapagsulat o nakakaintindi ng Maori. Pero of course there are efforts now being made by the government, yung mga kohangareo na yung mga small schools for the children. Pero again, there was a generation in the past na because binawal ang pagsalita at pagsulat ng Maori, hindi nila naipasa sa kanilang mga anak at mga apo. Okay? And I've seen that from sa aking mga previous clients when I was working sa Treaty of Waitangi Law. So, kumbaga, a generation was lost because dahil hindi naipasa yung language, yung Maori language or Tereo. Okay? So, gaya ng napangako, this is just a short and simple discussion about Treaty of Waitangi. Hopefully, may natutunan kayo or marami kayo natutunan sa episode na ito. I know it's one of those unpopular topics sa ating usapang batas, pero gaya nga sabi ko, napapanahon, Treaty of Waitangi, public holiday this weekend. So, maganda rin siguro na maintindihan natin yung Treaty of Waitangi kasi this is one of this is one of the most important, if not the most important legal aspect ng New Zealand legal system. Okay? So, importanteng malaman natin, hindi tayo basta nakikinig kung basta-basta sa ating nakikita o naririnig. So, magandang maging mulat tayo sa ating kapaligiran and maging, kumbaga alam natin, hindi lang isang katotohanan, kumbaga yung ibang katotohanan din. Okay? So, yun lamang po. Again, maraming salamat po sa pakikinig. sa another episode ng Usapang Batas. At hopefully, patuloy po kayo makinig sa other episodes, and mag-ingat po tayo sa darating na long weekend holiday na darating, and magandang gabi po sa lahat.